And I think it's also super important to surround yourself with people who are different from you. Go to therapy, sister. It's okay to hold something sacred and just close to the chest and close to the heart. Talk to God about it. If you come to me now on Craig's in trouble, like, you can care without being invested. And like, that's a young woman's game. Like, that's what you do in your 20s. I just don't. I do not believe in that. It's kind of a red flag for me. Like, why don't you want me to have my own? Like, as women, we're automatically expected to want to have kids. We're automatically expected to want to have the family, the man. Catty is just the way to go. Like, I'm going to confront you with all the attitude, with all the sass. I'm going to say what I want to say. What's meant for you is not going to cause confusion, and you're not going to have to fight for it. Hi babes, welcome in or welcome back to my channel. My name is Shameka, and if you are new here and joining us for the first time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Over on my channel, we talk about all things femininity, beauty, womanhood, fashion, lifestyle. We get into all the things, and especially if you are a woman who is in her later 20s or early 30s, I think this will be the perfect platform and community for you to contribute to and learn from. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, girl. We would love to have you over here. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about 12 things that every woman should know by 30. Now, this does not mean that you have to know all of these things literally by the time you turn 30, but I think your 20s are such formative years, and years where you gain so much insight and so much wisdom. And I think your 20s is about a lot of trial and error. And so I feel like once you start entering your 30s, these are some of the things that you should kind of have a grasp on as a woman. So if you want to hear the things that I've come up with, then just keep on watching. So the first thing on my list is to know when to try harder and when to walk away. Now, I feel like for me, this is a lesson that I learned in my 20s, and it wasn't just in terms of romantic relationships. It was friendships. It was with family members. It was with co-workers. It was with jobs. It was with certain situations. Like, you have to know when you need to give your all or go a little bit harder for something, and when something just isn't meant for you. And I think knowing the difference between those two is going to be really paramount as you enter your 30s and navigate the rest of your life, because I think sometimes we hold on so tightly and we fight so hard for things that are just not meant for us, for people and places and ideas and relationships that God just does not want us to have. And we put ourselves through a lot of turmoil, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of anguish, disappointment, sadness, frustration, all the things, because we are trying so hard to hold on to something that is ultimately not what God has for your life's plan. So knowing when to try harder and when to walk away is just super crucial, and it's going to save you a lot of heartache. Like I said, a lot of turmoil, a lot of the negative emotions that come with trying to hold on to something that is not meant for you and that God has not stamped for you and said that this is for you and for your life. And although the main focus on this topic isn't relationships, I think relationships is a really good example of knowing when to try harder and when to walk away, just because sometimes I feel like as women, especially if you are a woman who has a child or you are married, I think those are stronger and more complicated commitments. So it's not as easy to walk away sometimes. But I think we need to realize and kind of come to terms with is that we don't own anybody. We don't possess anybody. We are here to experience them. And if a situation that you're in becomes very strenuous and it's a lot of strain and strife and it just feels like it's draining you, like it's so much work to keep this thing running, then maybe it's not meant for you. And that doesn't mean that you should just walk away from your man or walk away from your baby daddy, walk away from your husband. But I think it does mean that you may need to take a step back and take inventory, because I truly believe what's meant for you is not going to cause confusion and you're not going to have to fight for it. Now, there will be times within a marriage or any relationship where you do have to show up and you do have to put your best foot forward, but you shouldn't have to literally fight and claw and scratch to hold on to someone. If someone doesn't want to be with you or doesn't want to experience life with you any longer, or isn't making you happy, then it may be best to kind of walk away from that situation. Next up on the list is how to confidently ask for what you want. And I think this really truly applies within the workplace. You have to be willing to put yourself out there and be able to advocate for yourself, because if you're not going to advocate for yourself, if you don't believe in yourself, then obviously no one else will. So building that confidence and that trust within yourself, that even though you may not be 100% certain how well you can do something, the confidence in your aura is going to make you believe that you can do it, as well as the person who it is that you're asking for that thing from. So an example could be asking for a promotion at work, or asking to take on additional tasks to prove that you can handle a more difficult workload or a more daunting task. I think it's so important to ask for what you want in a way that convinces others that you are ready for what it is that you're asking for. You don't want to seem docile and kind of meek about what it is that you're requesting or what it is that you're asking for. The confidence is kind of what helps seal the deal, if you will, or even kind of gets your foot in the door or your name in those rooms. It's the confidence and you believing in yourself and your ability to do something or have something. So definitely work on that confidence if that's something that you struggle with, because I find that the most confident people who kind of just go out and take what it is they want, it's because they put that into the atmosphere. It's sort of like the manifestation idea, right? Of like speaking it into existence and believing it and aligning that with what the universe is going to give you. And next up on the list is how to confront someone in a way that feels constructive and not catty. Now this one is, I think for Black women, is kind of difficult, because I don't know, not all of us, but a lot of us who were raised in like the hood, who come from teenage parents, lower educational backgrounds, catty is just the way to go. Like, I'm going to confront you with all the attitude, with all the sass. I'm going to say what I want to say. You're going to hear what I got to say the way I feel like saying it. I'm not going to consider how I got to say it. I'm going to say it how I come out, and how you take it is how you take it, because I'm going to say what I need to say. That's kind of how we approach things. But I've learned, definitely the hard way, that you get more bees with honey, and it's not always what you say, is how you say. I feel like that's a saying that has been being said to me literally my whole life since I was a little girl. It is not what you say, it is how you say it. And so when you are in situations where you do feel like you need to speak up for yourself or confront someone about something, it's not about what you're saying, it's about the way you're saying it, and learning how to sweeten it up so that it could be digestible for another person. Because the reality is, no other adult wants to feel like they're being talked down to, wants to be patronized, wants to be scolded, cursed out, or talked to like you're their parent or anything like that. So even if someone has wronged you, there is still a respectable way that you can go about letting them know how they hurt you or how they did you wrong, and kind of trying to figure out a way to reach a solution. It doesn't have to be catty, it doesn't have to be drama filled, but it does need to be said in a way that the other person can receive it. And a lot of times that starts with the person who has to say what it is that they're bothered about, right? And you just have to do that in a way that, like I said, is respectful, is considerate, and that makes the other person feel like, okay, I can receive this because I don't feel attacked. I don't feel like this person is being a bitch to me, or I don't feel like this person is trying to like scold me like I'm their parent or anything like that. And so really learning how to temper yourself and be mindful of your tone when you do have to confront someone is going to be extremely beneficial. Another thing that you need to know about 30 girl is the truth about how you feel about having kids. And when I say the truth, I mean that I feel like as women, we're automatically expected to want to have kids. We're automatically expected to want to have the family, the man, the whole Disney princess idea, right? But the reality is some women don't want kids. And I think it is so much better to acknowledge that and embrace that, because when you don't truly want kids for yourself and you want kids for a man, or to keep a man, or because your friends having kids, or because that's what you thought you were supposed to do, you may not show up as a mother in the best way that you can for those children. And I don't believe that anyone has a perfect childhood, right? We are all flawed human beings. Our parents are flawed. They're doing the best they can, and we're all just learning as we go. But I do believe that for the women who genuinely want to have children and want to be good mothers and are doing it for the right reasons, those children that they have tend to have a better experience of them as that person being their mother. You know, they have a better childhood, they have a better relationship. And so really come to terms with, do I genuinely want children? And if I do, why? Why do you want children? You know, and really kind of dissect your reason as to why and figure out, is it something that truly speaks to you, or is it what society told you should want, or is what your man want, or your mom wants, your family wants? Now why he gotta, now why? I just want to know, why did he have to just be overly loud with this muscle car? Like, this man literally saw me filming when he walked by, looked all up in my window, and then as soon as you get outside, now you want to like do the girl. Anyways, the next one. So similar to the last point of knowing whether you want kids or not, you also need to think about whether marriage is something that you truly desire as well. Because I find that, again, society tells us that we should want to be married, right? Society tells us that marriage is the goal, but marriage does not work for everybody. For some people, a long-term commitment is enough. The relationship that they have between themselves and the commitment and the trust and respect that they have for one another, it's just enough. They don't need to get the government involved. They don't need to stand up in front of people and profess their love for one another. Just being together is enough for them. And I think society is also in a place where we're kind of reverting back, right? Like, we're kind of going backwards in the sense that, like, we're starting to shame women for being baby mothers. We're shaming women for having kids out of wedlock. We're making women feel like they're less than if they did not do it the way that the Bible says it should be done. And I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I think what's important is doing what works for you, your family, your household, because what may work for me may not work for you, or what may work for another woman may not work for you. So doing what works for you is what I think is the right thing to do. I don't think that there is a rule book to life. I don't think that there is a certain way that things have to be done, because the reality is, if things were meant to be done that way, meaning that, oh, you get married, then you have kids, and you stay married forever to that same person and y'all die together, then we would have always still been doing it that way. There was a reason that there was a shift and women stopped getting married as much, or women were fine with being baby mamas, or whatever the case may be. I don't think there is a one size fits all when it comes to the idea of marriage and building a family. Yes, that is something that I want, but I don't judge anybody for wanting something different. I know people who have been together 20 years and they have never married, and that is fine for them. That works for them. So do what works for you. Figure out if getting the government involved in your relationship is something that you truly want. Because honestly, that's the only difference. The next thing that you should know by 30 is how to not lose yourself in a romantic relationship. I feel like that's what your 20s are for. Like, your 20s are for getting too wrapped up in a guy and getting your heart broken, and then trying to have to pick up the pieces and continue to navigate life when it doesn't work out. But once you get in your 30s, at this point, you should have your big girl job, big girl bills, and big girl responsibilities. And with you having those responsibilities, getting lost in a man should not be an option. You know, getting so wrapped up in another man's world that you're not tending to your needs and your responsibilities is not an option at this point, especially if you are a mother. And I find that also men who want you to be so wrapped up into their world and want you to kind of abandon your life for them and theirs, it's kind of a red flag for me. Like, why don't you want me to have my own? Why don't you want me to have my own motion, do my own stuff, make my own rounds, make my own money? Like, to me, that's kind of a red flag. And I feel like men who kind of want that from women tend to be abusive in some way or another. It may not always be physically abusive, but you could be emotionally abusive, financially abusive, mentally abusive. Like, abusive is like so many different things. So I think if you're not someone who's already in a relationship, or even if you are in a relationship, try to still have your own motion outside of that man, because you are still your own person. You are your own individual. And married or not, you know, things happen, and you never want a relationship to end and you feel like now your life has to end, or you don't know how to go on the next day living and doing what it is that you need to do or want to do or like to do because you don't know, because your world revolved around someone else so much. Now, I don't know if everybody's going to agree with this next one, but the next one I have is you need to know how to quit a job. And the reason I say you need to know how to quit a job because I am so sorry. And maybe it's just the millennial in me. I do not believe in staying at a job for 20 years. I just don't. I do not believe in that. I just feel like, why? Like, why would I give my life to you, a corporation, a company? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And then financially, to me, it also doesn't make sense because it's like the quickest way to get more money in the corporate world is to get another job. That's how you jump a $10, $20, $30,000 salary. Like, that's how you go from making $50K to $80K. That job that you've been at 20 years is not going to go from paying you $25 an hour to $90 an hour. Like, it's just not going to happen. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying it could never happen. Obviously, there are anomalies. This is not an absolute. But more often than not, that is not the case. And so you need to leave jobs. Like, I personally feel like if you're not getting promoted within a 2 to 3 year time span, or you're not seeing some upward progression at that company, then it's time for you to move around. And therefore, you need to know how to quit a job. So I'm not saying like you literally need to know how to submit your 2 weeks. Obviously, you need to know how to do that. But I mean, you need to know when your time is up at a company. You need to know when you've gotten all that you can out of a company and you've achieved all that you can, and now it's time for you to further your career elsewhere. It kind of goes back to like the first and second point when we were saying like knowing when to try harder and when to walk away. You need to know when it's time to leave a job behind and pursue other endeavors. The next thing that I think you need to know by 30 is that actions most definitely speak louder than words. Do not get so wrapped up into what a person is telling you, right? I feel like that's a young woman's game. Like, that's what you do in your 20s. You take a person at face value because you don't have the life experience to know better, right? Like, you have to kind of do the trial and error thing. But by 30, you should be knowing, like, okay, yeah, he's saying this, but what is he doing? Yes, she told me that, but what are you doing? Like, you should know to pay attention to the actions of a person and not be so easily swayed by the words that are coming out of their mouth. By 30, I definitely feel like you should have the discernment to be able to decipher if a person genuinely means what they say. And that's just by observing their actions and ensuring that it lines up. A person can be telling you one thing and then doing another. And I think at 30, you should trust what it is they're doing and not what it is they're saying. Like, it shouldn't be situations where you're like, well, he told me or they told me, but what did their actions show? Yes, they told you that, but what did they show you? You should definitely be more inclined to believe what you're being shown versus what you're being told. Okay, this next one is one that I am currently working on, girl, and that is detachment. And that just means that you can care without being invested. And I say this is something that I'm working on because my detachment is not that good. Like, if you come to me with a problem, if you come to me 911, Craig's in trouble, like, I want to help you solve that problem. I want to help you find a solution and let's get down to the bottom of it. But when you don't hold up your end of the bargain, when we find a solution and you still go and do something else, now I'm mad. Now I'm upset. Now I'm looking at you like you stupid. Now I'm looking at you like you crazy. And I'm irritated with you because I helped you solve this problem and you still went and did the opposite of what you know is the right thing to do. So now I'm bothered in my spirit. And now I don't want to be supportive and I don't want to hear what you got to say because you knew better. And I'm learning to kind of pull back a little bit in that way because it's not doing the right thing is so much easier said than done. And grace is necessary in so many situations. And so I'm just learning how to, even though you called me with your problem and I helped you fix it or I helped you solve it and I was there for you and I was supportive and I gave you my time and my energy, it is not my place to then take on that problem and make it mine. It is not my place to treat that problem as if, okay, now that I helped you solve it, we shouldn't have to talk about this anymore. Like, No, that is not my place. It's still your problem, your life, and your situation to figure out. And I don't need to be so attached to the situation and so invested that I feel disappointed in you when you don't make the decision that I feel like we agreed upon, or that I feel like it's the right decision. Like, it's still your life, your decisions. You're the only one who are going to, suffer the consequences of those actions. So learning how to kind of just detach and not be so invested in what everybody else got going on. Yes, they did call me for advice. Yes, they did want my opinion, but that doesn't mean that I have to be now invested in that situation. I can detach myself and help you out in that moment, and then still pull back and be able to navigate my life and not feel like I am responsible for you in any way. Next up on the list is to keep things to yourself. By 30, you should know that everybody got opinions, but we do not need to always share them, right? And also, nobody needs to know your every single move. It is okay to keep some things to yourself. It is okay to hold some things sacred and just close to the chest and close to the heart. Talk to God about it. You don't need to tell everybody everything it is that you're doing and or thinking. And I think once you kind of learn that and you kind of master that, I think life is a little bit more peaceful that way, because for one, when you're sharing, when you're oversharing, now you invite unwanted opinions or unsolicited opinions. And then when you're someone who's always giving your opinion, now someone else is on the receiving end of your unsolicited opinion or unwanted opinion. I know there are some people who are very loud and outspoken and, just always need to say what's on their mind. My best friend is one of those people, y'all, and I'm the total opposite. And I find that, like, it's a medium to it. You don't have to be like me and never really state your opinion unless asked, but you don't always also have to just blurt it out when it wasn't asked for and nobody wanted it to begin with. So I do think it is a little medium in there somewhere. It's a little happy place that you can kind of try to get to, but definitely try to keep some things to yourself. Everybody doesn't need to know everything you're thinking or everything you're doing. Some things are okay to just be for you and you only. And the last thing that I have on my list that you should know about 30 is that while your childhood may have not been perfect, it shaped who you are, right? Everybody's childhood shapes who they are. And so for the areas in which you feel like there's some trauma or some things you need to address or want to work on, go to therapy, sister, because that inner child, I feel like once you heal that inner child, the rest of your life can be so peaceful and so blissful because you have an understanding of why you are the way you are. You have an understanding of, okay, I am triggered by this because this happened to me in my childhood. And it's easier for you to navigate life with the tools and the understanding of why you are the way you are. I think therapy is just such a beautiful thing. And I've been in therapy for almost like 4 years now. And even with me going on and off for the past 4 years, I still come across ways that I think and behave and, my mindset on certain things. And I realized, like, dang, I need to bring this up to my therapist, because why am I like this? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I thinking this way? And I think it's also super important to surround yourself with people who are different from you, because there's growth in differences, right? There isn't much room to grow when you're around like-minded people and people who feel the same way as you do and think the same way as you do and kind of see the world the same as you. There's not a lot of growth there. So definitely try to put yourself around people who are different, who have had different experiences, and who can kind of turn a mirror on you. I think because I've done that, that's how I'm still learning and discovering things about myself that I'm not the happiest with or that I do want to address. It's because I'm around people who are so different from me. It kind of pushes me to look at myself in an introspective way and try to figure out, okay, Shameka, why do you feel that way about something like that? Like, why does that bother you? Why does that upset you? Why are you emotional about this? And just trying to figure out and unpack who I am and what trauma have I experienced that's led me to be the way that I am, and kind of trying to do the work to heal that. So that's definitely like a slight deep one or whatever, but I hope that, you go to therapy and try to figure out, especially if you are in your 30s, because I do feel that it does take time. Like I said, I've been in therapy for 4 years now, and I'm still not at a place where I feel like, okay, I'm good, I don't need to go no more. Like, it's always something that I'm learning and discovering about myself that I need to unpack and work through. So that is all that I have for the video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below in the comment section, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye.